So in the previous video, we learned that, for example, if I have the line equation y is equal to 2x, if I take any 2 points on this graph, any 2 known points on this graph, such as let's say x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2, these are 2 known points on the graph, I can calculate the slope by using the following equation. I know that the slope is the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y over these 2 points is simply the difference in the y coordinates over the difference in the x coordinates. So change in y over the change in x, if I have 2 known points, the slope is simply y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I can calculate the slope for a given equation. Now, let's think for a moment what would happen that instead of having the equation y is equal to 2x, instead I had the equation y is equal to 2x plus 3. Now, how have I changed the values of y with respect to x? So now let's fill in a table of values to see how we've changed the values of y. Now I realize that when x is 0, y is equal to 2 times 0 plus 3. When x is 1, y is 2 times 1 plus 3, which is 5. When x is 2, y is 7, 9, and 11. And when x is minus 1, y is 1, minus 1, minus 3, and minus 5. And if I plot this graph, if I plot the graph on these axes over here, on the x and y axes, I can take any 2 points. So let's take these 2 points over here. Let's take this point over here, minus 3 comma minus 3, and let's take 1 comma 5. So if I take these 2 points, and let's write down the coordinates of these 2 points as well, minus 3 comma minus 3, and 1 comma 5. Remember, for any point, it's always the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. So if I plot these 2 points, minus 3 comma minus 3 is when x is minus 3, y is minus 3, and when x is 1, y is equal to 5. And if I plot a line through these 2 points, this is what that line looks like in yellow. Now, if I notice, what I've done is I haven't changed the slope of the graph in any way. So for example, if I change x by, say, from here, let's say, if I start at the y-axis, if I change x by 1, y changes by 2. So the change in y divided by the change in x is still positive 2. So the slope is still 2. If I change x by, let's say, a value of 3, y will change by a value of 6. So if x goes from minus 3 to 0, y will go from minus 3 to 3. So the ratio between the two is always positive 2 on this line. However, what I have done is that now when x was 0 initially, y was also equal to 0. Now when x is 0, y is 3. When x was 1, y was 2. When x is 1 now, y is 5. So these two graphs, they both have the same slope. But what I've done is I've simply shifted the graph upwards by 3 units. So now if I take any given value of x, y has a value which is the graph y is equal to 2x plus 3. On this particular line, the y coordinate will always be 3 greater for any given value of x. So for example, when x is 1, here y was 2, over on the other line, y will be equal to 5. When x was 3, y is equal to 6, whereas over here, y is equal to 9. And this 3 over here in this equation, this 3 over here, is called the y-intercept. This is called the y-intercept. Now, why do we call this the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is the point at which the graph or the line intersects the y-axis. So when x is equal to 0, the value of y is equal to the y-intercept. So the coordinates of the y-intercept are always, the coordinates of the y-intercept over here will be 0, comma 3. So the coordinates of this point are 0, comma 3. And we also realize that for any given line, any given linear equation can be written in the form any given linear equation can be written in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So let me write that down. Y is equal to mx plus c. Over here, if this equation represents a line, so any 2 points on this line, any 2 points on a given line will satisfy this equation. And over here in this linear equation, m is the slope, whereas c is the y-intercept. The coordinates of c are always going to be 0, comma, c. Those are always going to be the coordinates of c. So the c over here is the value. So when x is 0, y is equal to c. When x is 0, y is equal to c. And this form of representing a linear equation, this form or this way of representing a linear equation is called the slope-intercept form. It's called the slope-intercept form. The reason we call it that is just by looking at this linear equation, if I have y on the left, if I have y as the subject of this equation, y is equals to mx plus c tells me that m is the slope of this linear equation, whereas c over here is the y-intercept. So the equation y is equal to 2x plus 3 tells me that the slope of the graph is equal to 2, whereas the y-intercept of the graph is equal to 3.